my Mercurial mercenaries! This is another off-the-cuff piece to camera because a few videos ago I asked you to recommend me an album by the band, pop group, concept album band, Kiss. Because I've been listening to a lot of Eddie Trunk, whose favourite band in the world is Kiss. And I've never really been into Kiss. I told you I had Dressed to Kill, and I told you I watched Kiss live on stage in 1992. But I accept that they're a big institution in America, like Van Halen, and that they don't mean a lot to us over here in the UK. So I asked you guys to recommend me a Kiss album, and I've got to say, it was one of the biggest failures of my Mercurial No. 6 channel career. You mainly mocked me. Basically, everyone seems to hate Kiss, and a couple of you came forward with some decent suggestions. And the upshot of it is, my mercenaries, that I have spent the last perhaps 3 days or so just basking in the music of Kiss. I've tried to listen to every album they've done to varying degrees of success, but I'm now going to present you my findings. The findings of someone for a band that has existed since the early 70s until now. The findings of someone who has merely dipped a toe in the music of the group Kiss. These are my findings, my mercenaries. First of all, before we go into some in-depth stuff about the albums themselves, let me just say that I overall enjoyed the experience. Now, I'm aware of Kiss. I said before, I'm aware of Paul Stanley, and I'm more aware of Gene Simmons mainly because of the Celebrity Apprentice, which he was on, but also because he was, for me, a kind of B-movie star in I told you, the film Runaway, the film about the robots from the early 80s with Tom Selleck starring. I liked that film when I was young. And I owned Dressed to Kill, so I accepted and appreciated that Kiss had some talent. But Kiss over here, honestly, a song that was big over here that wasn't big anywhere else in the world was a song called Crazy Nights. These are crazy, 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 crazy nights. Oh yeah! One thing I do appreciate is the scope of prime era Paul Stanley vocals. They really do kind of do this, my mercenaries. But Crazy Nights was a big hit here, in terms of the heavy metal audience anyway. I certainly remember it. So the UK audience, when they heard Kiss, they thought Crazy Nights. And also there was a film back in the 80s, The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, the metal years, which portrayed, I think it was, no, I haven't watched this for years, so I might be wrong here, but I think Paul Stanley was basically in bed with a couple of women, and Gene Simmons, I think, was in it too. But when we thought of Kiss, we didn't even necessarily think of makeup, the stuff I put on the screen now, because Crazy Nights was big here when Kiss didn't have makeup on, and they didn't wear makeup in The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. So Kiss were crazy, 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 crazy nights, scope, range, and bare chest, hair, and women. That was Kiss. So I decided to open my heart and tell you what I think of Kiss now that I've listened to a lot of their music. And what I thought I would do is I would just talk you through it. So basically, I understand that most people now would have switched over because no one likes Kiss. If you like Kiss, or you just generally and genuinely, can you be genuine? You can be generally and genuinely interested, then keep watching. And we're just going to talk through what I managed to gain on and off in 3 days, listening to as much as I could by Kiss. Oh, do you remember that? What was she called from Neighbours? Was it Beth? I'm trying to remember her name. Kiss. She was in Taken. I have a particular set of skills. I will find yous and I Will Kill Yous. Not Natalie Imbruglia, the other one. Oh, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let me put on the screen the Wikipedia list of all the Kiss albums, okay? Here we go. Right, here we go. These are the Kiss albums. And straight away, you can see how far back the group Kiss date, which is interesting in itself. No, Natalie Imbruglia was Beth in Neighbours. What was the name of... Jizz, not Jizz. They would call a girl Jizz in Neighbours. Jizz isn't even a name. What was she called? Holly Valance. Holly Valance. What's a valance? It's the skirt thing round the side of the bed. Holly Valance. Holly Valance. So, the first album was called Kiss. Self-titled, 1974. Tried to listen to a bit of that one. Let's put the artwork on the screen. So this was the first Kiss album, called Kiss, and straight away here are the faces: the Star Man, the Cat Man, the Man, and the Man. And like I said, these are the faces that we don't necessarily recognise in the UK because we knew Kiss from Crazy, Crazy, Crazy. I put this album on, it's quite raw, and what it reminded me of especially was like just glam rock, really. Alice Cooper, that kind of thing. Overall, the production stinks, but the songs are pretty good. Hotter Than Hell, the second album, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I'd listen to this one. I listen to them out of order. You know I listen to albums out of order, that's what I do. Not sure I listen to this one. Let's just look up what songs are on it. Hotter Than Hell, see if it rings a bell. Ding, ding, ding. No, 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 no. I might have played. I don't remember playing that album. I do apologise. You know, we're gonna win some. We're gonna win some. We're gonna lose some. Now, Dress to Kill is the album that I know the most by Kiss. Okay. Historically, this is the album I have listened to the most by this band, and I've always liked it. And I've always assumed that as it was just a random album that I owned, that there might be a chance that it wasn't one of the better albums. But I gotta say, it is one of the better albums. And not only do I like the cover, some blokes in suits with the faces, and the personalities kind of come across here, and Gene Simmons, no matter what you think about him, you know, grey suit, legs slightly apart, sort of bit bow-legged. Not bad, my Mercenaries. I mean, I'm not saying sexually, I'm just saying, you know. Dress to Kill. The songs on this one, I like them, and it has their kind of hit song, which I think they play at most of their concerts. Oh, that's terrible. Shouldn't do that. I wanna rock and roll all night and party every day. Although apparently, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, they are the lead singers of the band in a kind of Beatles way. Because looking through these albums by Kiss, it seems that especially in the days of when they had Ace Frehley and Peter Criss in the band, all the band members sung lead vocals. So Gene Simmons has always claimed to have been influenced by the Beatles, and you can definitely see that. But for a band that claims to rock and roll all night and party every day, apparently Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley are teetotal and don't do drugs, which I admire, but the songs seem to be so oriented. One means that, and one means compass. But towards like booze and women, and but I think Paul Stanley it is who says, no, it's all right. I'll just handle banging women while you feeble-brained wankers out there drink your big bottles of beer. So, you know, who wins out there? I think some people win, some people lose. Some people win, some people lose. But I listened to Dress to Kill again, and it again suffers with production, but the quality of songs is there. I find... Okay, that's the first three Kiss albums, okay? And it's tricky. I haven't devoted very much time to these first two, but there is a sense of the songs being reasonable, the production poor, and at this stage there's at least a feeling that the Kiss albums have a lot of filler on them. This is just my opinion, right? Now, an album that you guys definitely told me that I should listen to was Destroyer, and I think this is the album that Bob Ezrin got involved with. Now, Destroyer, probably because I need to lick the glasses, sorry, I should never do that. Probably because of the Bob Ezrin connection, to me reminded me a lot of Alice Cooper because of the Bob Ezrin connection. I know. Let's put the artwork on the screen. Now, the production on this album suddenly does that. And the opening track, Detroit Rock City, is pretty class. And there's another song on this album, and it's called Beth, I think. And I believe there it is there, on that one there, Beth. And Peter Criss sings this song, and I kind of remember it, just from hearing it. I kind of vaguely remember it. It's always just got a kind of cliched pattern to it. But I quite like that. I think God of Thunder is supposed to be a big song that Kiss play live, and it's like Gene Simmons' trademark song. Nah. Detroit Rock City has a fantastic bass line on it. It reminds me a little bit of Back in the Saddle by Aerosmith. But if that's Gene Simmons playing the bass on that song, he's a damn fine bass player. But overall, this album was pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Rock and Roll Over. Don't remember listening to it. Love Gun. I did listen to it, and I didn't much like it. Dynasty. Now, Dynasty. I think this is the album that fans of the band, when they first heard it, started to turn against the band, because I think they say that Dynasty is the one that went disco. Let me just put the artwork on the screen, my mercenaries. Okay, Dynasty, they probably say in America. But first of all, I like this album art. It's terrible, absolutely terrible, but I like it, and I especially again see he's the limelight. I think this guy is the limelight stealer. But Gene Simmons' face, he's the top. I can't really point, can I? I can do it with the mouse. This guy up here, look here. That's Gene Simmons, okay? He's the limelight stealer, because that facial expression, I don't know what the hell it's all about, but that is just like mint. Mint, my mercenaries. But I believe that Dynasty was the album that had that disco song at the beginning. I Was Made for Loving You. And I have read that a lot of people really have a dislike. Kiss fans at the time did not like this song. However, I listened to the song. I remembered the song straight away because I think it's been a big kind of worldwide hit in the years since. It's a great song. It's such a strange thing. If a band that you love makes a song that is a great song, but it strays from the boundaries of what you're used to, why do you turn on them? Not every band has to be AC/DC and keep putting out the same thing again and again and again. What's wrong with a band not conforming to your expectations? And we're going to come onto this even bigger in a minute. But what's wrong with that? So Kiss make a disco song, and it's a pretty good disco song. But the fans turn against them to the point where the band themselves start to doubt themselves. I think it's said that this album here, bearing in mind that I've now listened to a lot of the music and I've listened to a lot of the Eddie Trunk interviews, I get a general gist of this band now and the fan base. But around this time, the fan base started to turn against the band. They thought they were abandoning their true, you know, that. I didn't listen to a lot of this album. I mainly listened to that first song, and that's going to be another point in a minute. I've got two main points, I think. Maybe three. We'll get onto them all in a minute, and I'll have forgotten all three by the time we get there. Next was Unmasked. I really like the album cover, but I don't remember listening to the album. It's been 3 days. I've dipped my toe, my mercenaries. One thing that surprised me was I thought that Unmasked might be the first album that Kiss put out where they weren't wearing their makeup, and hence calling it Unmasked. But and this is the first time I've really noticed this, but I noticed here that when they take their masks off, they've still got the makeup on underneath. So I suppose it was like kind of a big woohoo surprise to the audience. We'll call this Unmasked, but when I take my Mercurial #6 mask off, it's the Mercurial #6. Didn't really listen to it. Let me just check what songs are on it, just to make sure. Hang on. Cool, right, next. So, what I believe happened here, my mercenaries, so we were around 1979, 1980 now, right? And what happened was the fans wanted this, and Kiss were trying to be more commercial, producing, I think, kind of disco and pop, and they went into a decline. Now, this is just the studio albums I'm talking about. Something else happened. Something else happened here and here, all right, which is the Alive albums. But I decided for these 3 days that I would stick to the studio stuff, all right? So we'll talk about the Alive stuff in a minute. So Kiss kind of retreated, got Bob Ezrin back in, and they were going to come up with something absolutely rocking and stomping to win back their fan base after losing some of them from Dynasty and Unmasked. And then they got led astray in the studio by Bob Ezrin and by their egos, and they made Music from the Elder. Now, this album is the album that the band regrets, the producer, Bob Ezrin, regrets, and the fan base despise. And when I asked you for suggestions for an album to listen to, I think at least one of you said, listen to whatever you want, but don't listen to Music from the Elder. An album fueled by ego. Maybe alcohol and drugs as well, who knows, but ego. And I liked it. I liked it. I don't get the hate, my mercenaries. Maybe it's because I'm coming from a position of not knowing Kiss, not having any preconceived ideas. I mean, I did have preconceived ideas because I've been told by everybody, everywhere, that this album is shocking. But if I tell you that I'm coming from a place that enjoys concept albums, I love things like one of the greatest albums of all time is Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. I love War of the Worlds, the 70s Jeff Wayne production. And there's aspects, and basically Bob Ezrin, who produced this album, just come off the back of producing Pink Floyd's The Wall. But there's moments on this album that sound very much like War of the Worlds. Like Forever Autumn. Who was the singer on Forever Autumn? Justin Hayworth. It doesn't matter who it was. Doesn't matter who it was. I listened to a lot of rock and roll by Kiss, and then this album came along, and the opening track, Paul Stanley's doing this weird kind of 70s falsetto thing, and there's sort of flutes, and it's not anything like any of the music that came before, but you have to let it sink in a little bit, and you have to adjust to how twee it sounds, and your initial reaction is to laugh when Paul Stanley starts singing. It's odd, but overall, it might just be, having dipped my toe in trying to listen to all their albums, it might just be the most cohesive studio album they ever made. And there are moments on it that are pretty good, and I do especially like the single. What was it called? A World Without Heroes, which has, yes, lines by Lou Reed in it. But I thought, honestly, that's a really class song, A World Without Heroes. There are moments here. But around this time, my mercenaries, the band started to break down. I think Peter Criss was either going or gone at this point, and Ace Frehley had kind of had enough. And this album is derided. It's like a 0 out of 10 album in most music magazines, but I think they've got it wrong on Mercenaries, and it's a shame that the band themselves can't just say, no, we quite like it. They have to kind of pander to the audience that hated it, and they have to say, well, no, we don't like it, and it was a mistake. Just because people don't like something that you do in life, especially as an artist, doesn't mean it's a mistake. It can be a mistake, but sometimes you just have to do it and just say, yeah, we did it and we like it. But the consensus was it was a mistake. And so for the next album, they wanted to correct this mistake by doing the album that they should have done, in their opinion, in the first place, which is come back after Dynasty and Unmasked with a rocking album. And that's what they did, my mercenaries. And they came back with the next album in 1982, which was Creatures of the Night. Now, my mercenaries, I have to say that this, I think, is my favourite Kiss album that I've listened to. I really liked it. Now, we've left Peter Criss and Ace Frehley behind. We've now got Eric Carr on the drums, and he's the Fox guy there. You can see he's got his own makeup, the Fox. And Ace Frehley is still on the cover here, but there was a variety of different guitarists on this album, mainly Vinnie Vincent. But Kiss, being more of a promotional entity, more of a brand thing, they're not the most, I was going to say honest, that's not quite true, but I'm not quite sure. It's more of a trying to sell records thing that they've got Ace on the cover here. It's not, I think it's disingenuous. However, this album rocks, and it sounds like 80s heavy metal. It couldn't be more different from music from the Elder. And to be honest, it sounds very much like an Ozzy Osbourne solo album from the time, the stuff he was doing with Randy Rhoads. But I like it, and I think my favourite Kiss song is Creatures of the Night. So overall, if I had to recommend one album for you guys to go and listen to, I'd probably recommend Creatures of the Night. I'd actually recommend 2, perhaps 3. I'd recommend you listen to Creatures of the Night, music from the Elder, and bits and pieces of Destroyer. Alright? But I really like this album, and especially the title track. Next we have Lick It Up. Now, I think Lick It Up is the album that they, well, it says it here now, but I knew this anyway. This is the album that they decided to abandon the makeup for. And I suppose when all things are failing, you need to kind of up your game a little bit. And their upping the game was saying to the world, okay, then we'll get some extra leverage here, some extra momentum, maybe a few more people at our crowds at our gigs if we just take the makeup off for the first time. So Lick It Up is Kiss's makeup-free album. Again, Gene Simmons is the kind of the overriding personality when it comes to promotional material and anyone thinking about Kiss, although it still seems to be that Paul Stanley is the kind of driving force. And remember, around this time, Gene Simmons was off, disappearing off to do films and things, which I think annoyed Paul Stanley. What do I remember from Lick It Up? I did listen to Lick It Up. I did listen to it. I can't really remember anything off that. Next, Animalize. Remember the cover? I think it's got like a tiger skin or something on it. Yeah, I like that cover. I tried to listen to the album, didn't like it very much. It's just more of the same 80s. As these albums progress from Creatures of the Night onwards, they become more sparkly, more kind of 80s hair metal. And we're now definitely in that era where Paul Stanley was lying in the bed with the women, and it was all hairspray and swimming pools and sparkly, wazzy guitar solos and anthemic choruses. Didn't much like this one. Can I remember anything off it? Can I remember anything on it? Hang on. I don't know. It's hard. It's been 3 days, my mercenaries. I mean, what can I do? Asylum. Don't even remember it. Crazy Nights. Now, Crazy Nights, my mercenaries. Actually, looking at it here, I think somehow when I was a kid, I had this album on tape, on cassette. But this is the kind of thing that the UK audience were listening to. And this is the kind of thing that the UK audience think of when they think of Kiss. It's this and Bill and Ted and the God gave rock and roll to you, gave rock and roll to you, put it in the soul of everybody. All right? So this is what we're thinking of with Mercenaries. Again, what you'll find here is you'll find the first track on the album, Crazy Crazy Nights, is the big hit here. Opens the album. Paul Stanley wrote it. Paul Stanley seems to write a lot of songs that open Kiss albums. Then we had Hot in the Shade. Now I think Hot in the Shade was quite big here because I certainly remember as a kid the cover, which was the Sphinx, wasn't it? Not the Sphincter, the Sphinx. That's right, the Sphinx with sunglasses. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool cover, my mercenaries. And I think this was relatively big over here. I don't know how it did in the world. Don't really recognise any of the songs. Then we've got Revenge. Now, Revenge, my mercenaries. This is 1992. This is when I went to see Kiss. And Revenge is the album they put out when they had that big hit, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which was a cover version, unfortunately. It'd be great to say that God gave rock and roll to you, gave rock and roll to you, put it in the soul of everyone, was a Kiss song. But I think people would be disappointed because it wasn't. It was an Argent song or something like that. So that's unfortunate. But that was a big album over here. Does it tell? In fact, it might tell you. Hang on. What did it get to in the UK charts? US. So it's US is on one side and UK is on the other. So we can see here, actually. So US is... Where is it? US is this side and UK is that side. So something like Crazy Nights. Here we go. This says it all, my mercenaries. So Crazy Nights, which is the song that the Kiss are most known for here, Crazy Crazy Nights. The album got to number 18 in America, but number 4 here, which when you look up the list of album placings for Kiss albums is, well, you know, doesn't place, doesn't place, doesn't place, 22, doesn't place, 50. So you've got to appreciate that Crazy Nights was a big hit here. And, okay. And Hot in the Shade, their follow-up, they didn't capitalise on it. Oh, sorry, we're talking about Revenge. Revenge, number 10. So it got to number 10 in the charts, which is a pretty big deal considering we've got you know, Uncharted, Uncharted. So what's the best Kiss album here? Biggest, so it's Crazy Nights. So Crazy Nights. It's Crazy Nights. In the US, of their studio albums, it's... Well, how about that? It's Sonic Boom. There you go. Revenge, my mercenaries. Yes, I had this on CD, or I think my brother had this on CD. I listened to it a lot at the time because I think I was getting ready to go to the gig, and I remember it being quite good. Big bombastic choruses. Let me just check what songs were on it. I should know. I should recognise some of these songs because I did actually listen to this album a lot. No, I remember Domino. God gave rock and roll to you. Yep. And it's Unholy. Unholy. That's it. Down, 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 da 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 down, bum bum bum. Unholy. I don't know, something like that. It's all right. It's all right. Rolling Stone gave it 1 star. Well, you can't see that. You see it on that? Look, Rolling Stone gave it 1 star. What you find is when you go through these, when you look through Kiss's history of what they were rated at the time of release for their albums on Wikipedia, you'll find that Rolling Stone pretty much gives every album by Kiss 1 star. That's the recurring theme of Mercenaries. If we go to an album that's charted well in the US, like what we got here. If we go to Love Gun, it was number 4 in the US charts, all right? If we go to Love Gun and we see what Rolling Stone gave... Oh, look! Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Rolling Stone gave that one quite a high mark. So there you go. There's me trying to say Rolling Stone always give Kiss 1 star. Haven't backed myself up straight away. Let's go to another one. What's the second highest charting album? Sonic Boom. Well, yeah. What can you say, my mercenaries? Not everything I say is fact, obviously. After Revenge, which was all right. There was a lot of albums around that time that just, it all got a bit bombastic. And people lost their way. One of my favourite albums is Trash by Alice Cooper. But even with him, the follow-up has to outdo it. So the follow-up's Hey Stupid, and it's like, you get more and more bombastic until, I mean, if you try and have a bombastic sandwich, oh, Mr. Bombastic, set me fine with a sandwich. There's only so much content you can put in a sandwich before you can't call it a sandwich anymore, because it's just two pieces of bread very wide apart. You know, like if I put a piece of bread at one side of a cauliflower field and another piece of bread on the other side of the cauliflower field, with say 1,000, 2,000 cauliflowers in between, is that a cauliflower sandwich, or is it just a cauliflower field with two pieces of bread? Carnival of the Souls didn't listen to it. Psycho Circus didn't listen to it. Sonic Boom didn't listen to it. Monster didn't listen to it. It was a 3-day dip my toe in my mercenaries. Now, one thing I didn't mention was, and this is because I would have mentioned all of this in order, but Wikipedia puts them out of order for some reason. At this point here, my mercenaries, here somewhere, after Love Gun, this is what I like about, but for all the negativity about Kiss, and we'll get onto that, one thing I like about this band is that at that point in time, they decided for each band member to release a solo album, but still under the moniker of Kiss. The sort of thing that other bands didn't do, like the Beatles, for instance, they did do a solo album each, but each solo album became the White Album, if you know what I mean. What Kiss did was produce 4 separate albums. They had their face on each album, and the album title was Kiss, Gene Simmons, Kiss, Ace Frehley, Kiss, Peter Criss, Kiss, Paul Stanley. And they were all released on the same day in 1978. And here they are. Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, Paul Stanley. Now, I listened to all 4 of these albums. It turns out that the surprise hit, which no one expected, which was Ace Frehley's album, kind of gave Ace the spearhead, the thing to leave the band and want to go solo, because his album was like the surprise hit of the... I mean, that's what I keep reading. It was the surprise hit. Looking here, Gene Simmons is still charted higher. I suppose what they're saying is, who would have thought that Ace Frehley's album would chart much higher than Paul Stanley's, given that Paul Stanley is the kind of the leader of Kiss, and probably the most important band member of Kiss. I listened to these 4 albums. You know, they're all... if I had to put my money on one of them, I'd probably put it on Paul Stanley's. I think Paul Stanley's was the best of the bunch. But there are the 4 solo albums. Ace Frehley's, Paul Stanley's, Gene Simmons, Peter Criss. Gene Simmons got some blood dripping out of his mouth there. You could replace the where it says Gene Simmons there, just replace it with Attention Seeker. No, Limelight Hogger. But I mean that in a good way. Like I say, it's all very self-indulgent, and it's all pretty hit and miss. I could probably stomach Paul Stanley's more than the others, but And one more thing to get onto is the fact that Kiss relieved themselves. Kiss relieved themselves on the Alamo. Kiss snorted a line of ants. The live albums. What happened was, Kiss were not, and you can see it really from here, Kiss were not having a lot of success with their charting positions, but of their first 3 albums, but they were saying, we're having such a good reaction live. So what they did was they released a live album after those first 3 albums, and it was called Alive. And now, I certainly grew up, let me put it on the screen. I grew up reading guitar magazines, and so often in my guitar magazine interviews, famous guitarists of the day, and we're talking about kind of the early 90s here, would keep harping back to Kiss's Alive as being the reason why they picked up a guitar in the first place. And for that reason, Alive is an important album. Now, I read up a lot about this. Band members' interviews and Bob Ezrin's, not Bob Ezrin, Eddie Kramer, is it? Whoever did the, I think it was Eddie Kramer, whoever did the production for this one, recording, whatever. And the consensus is that the only real live thing on this album is Peter Criss's drum track. But in any case, what happened was the band wanted to release something that was more raw and closer to their live experience. And just before I sat down to record this, I thought, I'm going to listen to some of this Alive album stuff. And I put Alive on. And Alive contains most of the songs from these first 3 albums. From Kiss, Hotter Than Hell and Dressed to Kill. And I gotta say, Alive sounds great. Now, it's likely a recreation in the studio with some overdubbed kind of Friends style, overdubbed applause and shouting and stuff. But you know, if the drumming's the only live thing, then I've got to say Peter Criss's drumming is fantastic, and they certainly pull off quite a good fake live performance. And it just does sound better than it sounds better than the first 3 albums. And it casts the songs from the first 3 albums in a good light. Again, Alive 2 was released after they released the next 3 albums. So they did Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, and Love Gun. And then here, while they were recording their 4 solo albums, they released Alive 2. And that contains live versions. I think more live than the first one. They're actually live, I believe, of these 3 albums here. And again, stuff like Detroit Rock City sounds fantastic. So it's as if they just couldn't get the production right in the studio, and then live, Kiss came alive. So I think if you're going to listen to one album by Kiss, I suppose you've got to listen to Alive. So there you go. I would say listen to Alive with the exclamation mark, and listen to Creatures of the Night, Music from the Elder, and Destroyer. That's my suggestion. My 3 points. What I've noticed, my mercenaries, is the first song on every Kiss album is fantastic. The opening track is always fantastic. And it tends to be written by, let me just check this out, yeah. They tend to be written by Paul Stanley. He seems to be in charge of the opening tracks of albums. So, my first point is, if you wanted to have the perfect Kiss album, just take the first track off every album and put them on your own compilation album and listen to it. Second point. What's my second point? I had a second point. Hang on. Kiss, I think, are regarded as a bit of a comedy act, a bit of an unreal band. I think that's a shame. I think they were showing moments, especially around this point here, where there could have been something really serious. But I think overall, across their whole catalogue, there is too much filler. There's too much glitter. And it's all a little insubstantial. But I also wouldn't go as far as some people have been saying. In the comments section of the video where I asked for suggestions, a few people were saying, you know, this is just a joke band, a comedy band or whatever. Well, I wouldn't go that far. There are moments here of genuine greatness. Genuine greatness. And I think if there's a reason for this band to exist, just take the song, the first track, from Creatures of the Night. Creatures of the Night. Just put that on. Just listen to that song. If you don't like that song, you're entitled not to like it. You probably just don't like 80s hair metal, but Creatures of the Night, I do like it. What was my third point? So I've covered. Point number 1 is that the first track on every Kiss album is the best. Point number 2 is they kind of are a joke band, but they're a little bit more substantial than that. Point number 3 is I think they were unfairly derided for this era. This era here, which I'm putting my mouse around here, Dynasty Unmasked, Music from the Elder, and I think that probably derailed them a little. Who's to know, if the public had liked these albums here, would we have got these albums here? Point number 4, the band itself, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss. It's a shame that around this point here, sort of 77 onwards, it's or 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, I suppose, whatever I'm talking about here, 79, 80, 81 onwards. It's a shame that the band got so... it's a shame it wasn't more consistent. From the 80s, you had different guitarists. You had Vinnie Vincent, Bob Kulick, or Bruce Kulick, or something, Tommy, whatever. You had all these different guitar players and different drummers, and I mean that's to be expected with bands. And there's loads of bands around right now who have 0 original band members, so it's not Kiss's fault necessarily. And they did have a comeback around this point here, I think. Around here, they had a reunion tour, but I think the public bought into the band because they'd made such an effort. They could have asked for it. They'd made sure that the public knew Kiss as 4 individuals, to the point where they had 4 sanctioned solo albums. People wanted you to I can see they wanted you to, the band wanted you to see the drummer as the Cat, Peter Criss. They wanted you to see the guitarist as Ace Frehley, the Space Ace or whatever. They wanted you to see the guitarist as the Starman and the bassist as the, you know, they made every effort. So to then, at some point, just go, no, we can have anyone in the band, doesn't matter. It's a bit disingenuous again. So I would say Kiss, overall, are a disingenuous band who do deserve a place in rock history. I've listened to their music. I like Creatures of the Night the best, and I like Music from the Elder. I want you guys, people who don't like Kiss, tell me if I've added anything to your lives. People who do like Kiss, tell me down below what you think of my opinions. I've run out of steam. I've overdosed on Kiss. I have enjoyed it. I'll tell you another thing, that what this, listening to Creatures of the Night especially, and Vinnie Vincent, what it made me do was pick up my guitar for the first time in like a year. I bought a brand new Fender Tele 72 Custom last year. It's been sitting over there in that case, untouched, and I picked it up. The bloody thing doesn't work. No sound out of it at all. A wire inside it must have broke, or a pot or something, even though it's been in a case and no one's played it. How's that up on my Mercurial? I stick up for Fender and Teles as being robust workhorses. But that would have been great, wouldn't it? Get up on stage, just play the whole gig without it plugged in. Brilliant. It's not like I've ever done that before. Long-term mercenaries. Is it? Not like I've ever done that before. But I was inspired from listening to Creatures of the Night to play the guitar. So I've lost my chops. I can barely move my fingers now. I can barely move my fingers. I picked the guitar up and I just found myself because someone just posted a comment on one of my videos, an old video of mine slagging off Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. I just thought, oh, I've never played the solo up Sweet Child of Mine. I can barely play the guitar at all, but I just from ear, not even listening to the song, just from memory. And I thought, oh, I'll just try and play that. And within like 1 minute, I'd worked out the notes of it. And it just reminded me that it doesn't, it's like riding a bike, apart from less of that on the pedals and more of that. And it reminded me that playing the electric guitar is the most fun you can have with your pants and your trousers on and your socks and your t-shirt and your glasses. So maybe we'll end with that, because I actually had this kind of accidentally recording at the same time. So, my mercenaries, on that bombshell. They don't say on that bombshell. Over and just really enjoy playing the guitar. Haven't picked it up for a while. Picked it up, and honestly, it's probably about a year, but I really enjoyed that. Just switching a guitar on and just trying to. And then just doing the and then I thought that I could play that solo, which I've never played before in my life. Bloody guitar leads. I mean, I've never played that before in my life, and I've always, everyone plays around with it at the beginning, but who gets as far as trying to play the solo? I really enjoyed that. And do you know what the annoying thing is, my mercenaries? I got my brand new guitar, which I bought, what, last year? I got it out of its case to play it now, just to have a little fiddle around with it, and it doesn't work. Absolutely no sound. I thought it was the leads. I mean, all these leads are dodgy. All these leads are 20, 30 years old or whatever, 25 years old. Fair enough, need to replace the guitar leads. But no, it's the guitar. Absolutely, the other Telecaster I've got, absolutely silent. Somehow, from being brand new to me getting out now, some wire has snapped inside it. Sometimes I just find that I really enjoyed that. It's just that I wish it was easier just to pick up and play an instrument rather than be a bloody palaver. And sometimes the electric guitar is a palaver. A palaver.